Hold it now. Hold it now. Hit it.
Welcome to the acclaimed podcast, The Deep Dive, featuring your esteemed hosts, Andy Monitor and Drew Dinzik, powered by BetSperts.
Welcome to The Deep Dive. Buffalo Bills. So despite the fact that last year everyone was saber rattling about the Buffalo Bills Super Bowl window closing, and despite the fact that the Buffalo Bills got off to a very, very, very weak start.
Mid 5-5, I think they were through 10.
Like literally, we were wondering if they were going to hit the reset button on the staff. Who's what's happening?
They did a little.
They were 6-6 heading into their bye after an OT loss to the Philadelphia Eagles, where they were clearly the better team. But we're not going to go there. 6-6 out of the bye. 7-6, 8-6, 9-6, 10-6, 11-6. They win the AFC East despite all of the sign and signal telling you that this team and their window had closed. They thumped the Pittsburgh Steelers in the wild card round, and then as home chalk could not keep Pat Mahomes from winning his third Super Bowl, could not punch their own ticket to what would have been a very weird and interesting AFC Championship game of Baltimore Buffalo. Don't know what happened there, but certainly felt like people were going to sort of forget about this team because of the just the narrative, right? The setting of the sun on the Bills last year that was done in the offseason, combined with the fact that they didn't really achieve anything. It felt like people were gonna kind of be sleeping on the Bills heading into this year.
How many times have we buried Josh Allen?
Yeah, we've buried him a lot. We haven't, but
just the media collectively,
yeah. But
before even the league,
the expectation I kind of had was, man, with Diggs' departure, some of the turnover on defense, some of the some of the weaknesses on this roster, I kind of thought they were going to be slept on. Lo and behold, they're favorites in the AFC East again, and we're doing them fourth of all four teams in the AFC East. And realistically, second choice, third choice to win the AFC right now after the Chiefs. Tough to really. I guess probably Ravens, Bengals are in that conversation as well. But
it's not like they're a runaway favorite. It is terribly close between Bills and Jets, and Miami's not that far behind in most of the odds board. So they're the favorite, they're the fourth, but it is a tight race. It's a fun division, and I don't know. It's tough to say if they deserve this respect because it's a different roster and a few important spots.
They are longer than the Ravens to win the AFC. They are 1 cent shorter than the Bengals to win the AFC. All three of those teams a step down below the Kansas City Chiefs. Interestingly enough, Josh Allen, second choice to win MVP. So this idea that you were going to get a buy low, I think, on the Bills, not really materializing this offseason. People are prepared for them to find a way to be good again. I don't know. I don't even really know what my favorite bet was last year of the futures bets that I made, but I think Bills AFC East was one of them. Got a couple of swings at that. One of them was before
Tomlin Coach of the Year.
That one was wild. Did you know he's shorter this year for Coach of the Year than when I bet him last year?
I know.
How is that possible?
I still dogged you and didn't think it was a good bet, but we got the most mileage out of that one.
Oh, he also got votes.
He did. He's so respected. He is a great coach, but it was fun. That one got the most mileage.
How the hell did he win 10 games with that team? It's more impressive than Stefanski doing it with clearly the best defense in football. Anyway, whatever. I digress. Bills AFC East bets were very fun last year. There were a lot of people that had big prices for Super Bowl and AFC. Sad for those people that didn't get a cleaner crack at that because the divisional round game against the Chiefs was freaking close, man. They were Josh Allen to Stephon Diggs long pass away from probably winning that game. And again, like I don't really know if they go into Baltimore and get a win the way the Chiefs did or what, but certainly would have had a puncher's chance. And I don't know that I would have backed them against the Niners. I certainly would have been like around 3-point dogs, I would guess. But it was that did feel like they could have stolen one last year, and they didn't.
That would have been a great game because Allen would have done something wild at the end, like good or bad.
Sure, for sure. The game was every game that Josh Allen plays, it feels like the game is on his hand.
And somebody did ask this question. Raul,
the game's on Mahomes' hand.
He says what makes this Bills team good, and man, so much is Josh Allen elevating people, and that's what's that's what's going to take them, because I think the biggest 100%. Question mark everyone has about how this offseason went is like, oh no, look at our receiver room now. It's really icky, and that's not great. Like this is and again, we're doubting him, we're burying him. We're going to find out. But I think that's the question you need to answer on how you're rating this offense is, can Josh Allen take a receiver room where your best receiver is probably your tight end? Your wide receiver 1 is a wide receiver 2. Your wide receiver 2 is a wide receiver 3. You don't know what you're going to get.
Oh, he's a rookie. You don't know what we're going to get there.
Oh no, I'm talking like Shakir and Samuel, and then you have the rookie in Coleman. So it's like, is he going to make everybody better in the way he's done in the past? And this is going to be, a competent offense, or are we going to have to downgrade this team throughout the year because of what we fear here?
Yeah, I mean, I guess maybe my whole preamble there was just kind of a little bit lamenting the idea that the tone of this preview could have been, can you believe that everybody's given up on this team when they still have Josh Allen?
I know. I think the market didn't, I guess.
No, nobody's giving up on them. Like there's no secret that the Bills are still very good, and that it is because of Josh Allen, because he does elevate. And like he's at the point of his career where you really cannot doubt that he will elevate the guys in that wide receiver room. He will. And I have general confidence with the way that, because like the other kind of part of the autopsy that we skipped, we were going to come back to it obviously, but that we skipped about the Bills and why they struggled to a 6-6 start was because they lost a key player at all 3 levels of their defense early.
Constantly. Multiple players in the secondary.
And eventually the secondary just completely fell apart. But like the spine of the Bills defense all got hurt.
Milano is important. You go look at some. Look at that split. Like super important.
Massively. Milano massively important. Daquan Jones was massively important. You lost both safeties at one point and were backfilling safeties. Like the entire spine was fucked. And because of that, you never really had a chance to put together an effective defense on a very tough schedule. You had a first place schedule. Your schedule was tough last year. And, you're going to lose games. And actually, funny enough, the games they lost that probably were like the real head scratchers were the game against the Jags, where they were huge favorites in London. Now that was a scheduled loss because they chose to fly to London so late, and the Jaguars had been there for a week, and the Bills didn't start playing until the second half. But their loss against the Patriots, 25-29, was crazy. In fact, they conceded 29 points to Mac Jones and the Patriots was absurd. Actually, that might have even been Bailey Zappi. I don't even remember who the Patriots quarterback was there. It was Mac Jones. You conceded 29 points to Mac Jones, probably his last start of his career. You lost to the Broncos 24-22. You should have lost to the Giants. You won 14-9. And then you got beat by the Bengals pretty convincingly, 24-18. These weren't inexcusable losses, but they were definitely losses that were in some ways begot by the defense being injured, I thought.
For sure. And as we talk about the offseason here, the biggest thing that we're going to talk about is, besides the safeties, which, maybe that's neither here nor there, but the Stephon Diggs departure, and Mitch Morse too, but Stephon Diggs being the big part of it. And I mean, when they were going down the stretch, go look at Diggs' game logs. And, it's hard to pinpoint how much coverage he took away and was responsible for other people's success, but something like Stephon Diggs had some big year. This roster has not changed all that much outside of that. So I guess why should we be taking this big step back? We say, hey, our defense is healthy now. We don't know where it'll be in the middle of the season, but right now, pricing for week 1, the defense should be healthy. We just have to see if we have the quarterback who can take some other receivers and make the most out of it, and we should be the division favorites.
Yeah. I have a weird contrarian take a little bit here on when you have an offense that's somewhat tough to predict, like the Bills are going to be.
Yeah.
I think that's good, right? As much as continuity helps you on the offensive line, I think continuity on the offense can get stale.
What's your game plan? Like, who are you game planning for besides Josh Allen? Like, oh man, we got to shut down Khalil Shakir today. Like, I wouldn't know what is going to be their offensive game plan, because
they're going to run 12, they run 13, they could do guys, 11.
We get it. You like fantasy
22?
Football. You really think the tight end's going to pop? Like, yes, he's going to get a lot of opportunities, but at the same time, like, yeah, what's the base formation for your offense? What are you, like you said, what are you playing the most out of? What are you going to do with your second, your second running back? What are you doing with your second tight end? What's going to happen? Like, hey, you don't have a good wide receiver 3. Maybe you're not running a lot of wide receiver 3 plays.
Yeah.
Or maybe there's a lot of, maybe there's some 22,
Yeah.
I don't know what we're doing. I like that. It's going to be a bit of a, who knows for a bit. And if they're smart, they'll just keep that going throughout the season, keep everything.
Yeah.
Everything is always just keep the other team guessing. And I think that's kind of the silver lining to have a shitty skill position player group comparative to some of the other top teams.
Yeah.
Your game plan
is silver lining as long as you have the quarterback that can elevate.
Exactly. Because you do. It's not the same as having just a bad offense. It's you have a subpar group of people around your superstar quarterback. And, if you told somebody my game plan is going to be, we're going to use Justin Jefferson as a decoy for 17 weeks. Well, you can't do that. Like, you have to throw to your best. Your best player has to be your best player. Whereas, like, our best player can be a different guy every week.
Yeah. Okay. So let's the chat all keyed on the same kind of talking points about Josh Allen that we should probably address, which is the propensity to throw interceptions.
That was a good example of the lost EPA and turnovers. Wasn't that bad. I didn't dig into all those turnovers.
If you can do what he can do on the high end with explosive plays, both running and throwing, and you have 3-pick games and random losses to bad teams because you're sloppy with the ball, like, that is low common denominator criticism, right?
It's stable for scoring. Birdies are worth more than bogeys.
Birdies are worth more. That's right. And ultimately, like, hey, he's doing something bad. It's obvious. You can see it. Look at this bad thing he did. Look at the counting stats that are bad. Like, okay, what's worse than some of the picks that Josh Allen threw last year? Some of the fumbles that Lamar Jackson had. Much worse. They're occurring in a worse part of the field, and it's more of like literal, like, there's no high leverage on a play where you fumble. Like, there was no good outcome there that you're shooting for something awesome.
Like every Desmond Ridder turnover.
Oh my God, the goal line fumbles. Oh yeah. And so I guess what I want to say is, like, there was a kind of a similar number of negative plays between a Lamar Jackson and a Josh Allen, but because the interceptions are so visible and so clear, momentum swinging plays. This is momentum swing here. And because the Bills had some losses, because he needed to be Superman, like, there's a big narrative around that I just think is quite misguided. And I would take Josh Allen as my QB any day of the week for the upside part of it, clearly. And again, like, there's a very rare group of quarterbacks in the NFL right now that you can look at a track record of, we can expect this guy to elevate the play of the teammates around him because what he can do physically.
Yeah.
And he's in that category.
We did see a different usage when we switched offensive coordinators midstream. And I don't know how much correlation there was to the.
I was nervous it was going to be bad.
I don't think it was like Oh, he just fixed everything. I think it was more of I want to put more on Allen than Brady as far
Surely.
as far
Sure.
as
Their backs were against the wall. Like he literally had to focus more, right? And I thought there was certainly less, kind of boneheaded stuff down the stretch when
I don't think
they
you
had
can.
to win every week.
Yeah, I don't think you can say like Brady had nothing to do with it when they switched offensive coordinators, but at the same time, it was just elevated play from the players who were filling in, finally getting comfortable on the defensive side of the ball, and obviously a lot of Josh Allen. So
Yeah. Part of the reason I have confidence is also a lot of the success they had down the stretch came in the absence of Stephon Diggs, who was their best player, skill position player by margin.
even when he was on the field, he was a little absent.
Yeah, his absence as far as being an impact maker, I would ascribe to getting hurt in the Jacksonville game and never really getting right, which is covered in the Houston pod. If you haven't already heard that, go check it out. The general spirit, though, was I thought he made a lot of chicken salad with chicken shit in general last year already for us. And so expecting him to do it again is fine. I'm fine with that. Fine with it. And maybe I'm Josh Allen pilled because he's some of my most memorable and most exciting and most enjoyable moments watching football were betting on him and him coming through in the last handful of years. Obviously, my most painful memory of football of the last several years was him losing to the Chiefs in the playoff round 2 cycles 3 years ago. Anyway, the year the Rams won.
I don't remember that podcast.
But no, I do have an attachment to him, and maybe that's blinding me a bit. But I really like. I'll take. When Aaron Rodgers was at his peak of his powers and he was able to knife you in the back down the field and not throw interceptions, okay, fine. If you can have that version over Josh Allen, fine. I concede. You would rather have that. But that's 1 in a million. That's super freaking rare. And I think Allen ultimately is capable of doing special enough stuff that if there's health around him and if the team catches breaks this year relative to the last 2 years, this team clearly has a one seed ceiling, clearly, because they have the second best quarterback in the conference, second best quarterback in football. And I think ultimately it's going to be if you want to take a stand against these guys for whatever reason,
there's plenty of reasons.
There's going to be games. There are going to be games though. There are going to be games this season where you're going to be like, I'm a fucking idiot. Because Josh Allen just ripped my heart out. And I'm not interested in that. So with that, what did you think of the offseason?
Let's
Did you have any more thoughts on last year, by the way? Did you think it was as close in the playoff loss as I made it out to be, or was that was the Chiefs? That was the Chiefs game. It kind of felt like for a lot of it.
It was a bad luck season. They still won the division. Like losing, Milano, White. They had to bring in Rasul Douglas in like the middle of the year. Benford got markedly better. Bernard got better. Like I think it helped some of these other pieces to this defense. This defense, if it stays healthy, has a chance to, I hate to say because how highly I rated it, could be just as good as the Jets. It has exceptional upside. Off-season wise, it depends how you feel about the Diggs thing. Like he wasn't terribly effective at times. It just kind of had run its course. The Diggs thing is going to be looked through the lens of how this team plays, because I think less so how he performs in Houston, because he can just say like he's in such a good spot there, where he can almost just be like we said with OBJ, like, man, you can be the third fiddle and really succeed because there's like 4 really good young wide receivers down there. And it should be fine, but it's going to be looked through the lens of like how Coleman, Samuel, Shakir, others, Kincaid and the other tight ends, Cook and the other running backs, how much they perform this year. Because if it's not good, we're like, oh, got rid of Diggs, now we suck on offense. I'm like, well, he might have been here and it might have been, similar compared to how he was playing at this point in his career, if he is indeed not, still maybe even carrying some sort of injury. That was speculated on a lot, not really confirmed. So off-season wise, I don't know, it was fine-ish. Like you lost some safeties, you lost some wide receivers, you lost a center, and draft-wise, you did what you could. You needed a receiver. It's easy to say, hey, you should trade up and take this receiver. We did that with the Jets too. Hey, you should trade all these pieces and get the perfect receiver to fit in your go for it. Sometimes the other teams don't want to trade with you.
Okay.
Like playing Catan, you don't trade cards with the king.
Okay. Our buddy Fabian Sommer. Do not like the Bills coach though. And with that sentiment, I agree. And that is what I wanted to bring up about their should have done in the offseason. Should they have retained McDermott? Or would this team have been better off at their current stage where there's a little bit of a reset here in terms of personnel, particularly on the offensive side of the ball and really on both sides of the ball? Like, was this not the right time to try to make a pivot? Because McDermott has shown you pretty convincing evidence that he doesn't have it for the high leverage moments.
Yeah. Could you have done better? Because you're in a window here. You're kind of in a go for it window still.
Could you not have gotten the best candidate in with relative ease just by having Allen?
That's where I wonder, like, would you have gone for the vet? Would you have gone chase after Belichick, which has been just
that would have been interesting.
Great drama.
Whoa. I didn't even think of that.
Oh, well, Belichick Vrabel. Like, do you go after the big veteran name like that who's done it?
I just want a guy who's going to make high leverage decisions better.
And that's the thing. Like,
honestly,
if you had said we are shit canning McDermott, Ben Johnson, would you like to coach a really fun quarterback? Like, is that a big improvement? We don't know, because I really like Ben Johnson as a offensive coordinator. There's no telling if he's, we've done this multiple times with really good offensive coordinators. Like, hey, this guy can do it, and then it just doesn't work out as a head coach. So I can't say definitively they could have gone out and gotten better. Belichick gets a lot out of this defense, and he's a great leader of men, but I'm not so sure his decision making is with it and hip and now as far as the analytics and how we do things.
Well, now I'm sad we didn't get that, because that would have been just
that would have been great drama. Oh my god.
God, that would have been interesting.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, who do you go after to maximize this? It's silly that they don't always look at it this way. They look at it like, I just need a good candidate with a good name. Like, who would you have gone after? Let's say nobody had made a hire yet. You could have interviewed all of these people to really maximize this roster. I think your defense is good. It's going to be good. And you needed to find someone who can continue to get the most out of Josh Allen. So, like, who are the other good offensive names that people like? Harbaugh's not, McDonald's not, Dan Quinn's not. It was a lot of defensive.
Yeah, McDonald would have been interesting though, just because of he's at least visionary, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I kind of just want somebody with more vision. Is really kind of what it boils.
So let's say this is a third place team, and then they decide, like, all right, we do need to make a change at the top. Are you going? I don't know if that's the real Fabian.
I don't think that's the real Sommer. It is quite late in Berlin right now.
Do you go after an offensive coordinator? Do you go after a defensive coordinator? Do you go after a retread?
Boy.
I mean, I'm always just gonna say offensive
coordinator, but but that said, like, there's such a
Canales was the other offensive one that they could win this cycle. Callahan, depending how you feel about him as far as actually being a big hand in the offense. So yeah. Callahan and Canales, maybe. I don't know how I felt about either of those hires here.
Okay.
All right, moving into the ratings.
Yeah. What you got for QBOC combo?
I made it an 8.5.
Oh, okay. Here I thought I was going to come in high.
Some of this was because I made spoiling the soup here. Like, if I'm going to make Patrick Mahomes a 9.5.
Yeah, you got to have.
I can't keep this low. Like,
you got to have him right there. It's got to be close.
Looking at Lamar plus OC, Buffalo plus what he does, and then Andy and Patrick, obviously, it has to be a pretty big number. So 8.5.
Okay. No disagreement. Rewind the pod and listen to us talk about Josh Allen if you need to. I guess the only hesitation I have is I feel like 8.5 is probably my ceiling because of the turnover stuff and because of the Joe Brady. I'm still a little skeptical. There were scheme aspects that worked for them down the stretch that if they kind of take the wrong lessons from that, I'm a little disenthused about the explosiveness of the offense. We'll see. Skill group.
I didn't know how low to go with this.
This one's really tough.
I'm nervous. Like, we both don't want to go first here. 3.
I went 4.5. Okay. You went 3.
3.
You went 3.
Because I said, I'm going to put this at the rock bottom where I can go. This is Cook is good. Kincaid is good. That's it. Like, we have upside. I do think there's a lot of upside in Samuel. I like him.
Knox is good too. You got 2 good tight ends.
Yeah, you got 2 good tight ends. I need to see what this offense is going to be before we can really go up from there. I hated making it this low, but this is going to be my rock bottom number. None of the wide receivers work out.
So your wide receiver, in my opinion, your wide receiver room is 3. But the way I'm distributing targets, I think the tight end room and the running back room help elevate this to 4.5. So I'm specifically kind of expecting the target share is going to be pretty light on wide receivers relative to other squads we've evaluated to this point.
Yeah.
And my wide receiver room, maybe even 3 is even high. Like, there's some names down
the wide receiver rooms
down this depth chart that could just flat out suck, might not make the team.
Yeah, I was going to say, who else do I have a 3 skill position groups? So I made, maybe I do need to upgrade this.
Giants. Would you trade their wide receiver, tight end, running back for the Giants?
I made the Giants. I made the Giants at 3. I think Neighbors has more upside than Coleman.
Okay, but that's just one piece.
They don't. And the other part about I just have such low hopes for the wide receiver room because a lot of them are you have check down receivers. There's so many. I don't see a spot where we're stretching the field with this group right now.
Okay.
And again, I'm willing to take this to a fucking 5 if it looks like they put it together right.
Okay.
It started very low.
All right. O-line.
6.5.
Yes. Nice. We agree.
Mitch Morse is a Jaguar, which is not great, but Deion Dawkins at left tackle is a Pro Bowler.
Yep.
Spencer Brown is penciled in. This was a question for you. Do you have Spencer Brown playing?
Yeah.
Week 1. Okay.
Is there a chance he doesn't?
He's coming off a shoulder injury. He tore his labrum in like the playoff game though they lost. So that's close. So my number is dependent on him playing from the get-go because he's a very good right tackle, very solid, but that's about as late as you can have an injury. And it is a little up in the air. So keep an eye on that if you're looking at anything from, player props, fantasy, betting, whatever. Because I think that's something worth monitoring. David Edwards is moving over from center to make room David Edwards is taking over, at left guard for McGovern, who's moving to center, taking over for Mitch Morse, who's no longer on the team. McGovern doesn't sound like it's going all that well in camp. When have you heard this before? A McGovern not doing well during an election year. It's been since 72. There's been some snapping issues. They need to get that sorted because it's another one where, just like the Jets, hey, this is some strong tackle play, but Osiris Torrance didn't impress anybody. It was just, this is only his second year, I think, so he needs to improve. Edwards is probably a solid left guard. And then they did draft another center, Cedric Van Prangranger. That's a mouthful.
Wow.
Sounds like if there's issues with McGovern or, if they need to move Edwards around, he could fill in at one of the guard spots. And if
it's probably Prangranger.
Prangranger.
Yeah.
If Brown can't go at right tackle.
Maybe it's Prangranger.
Lael Collins is still in the league.
Whoa.
Or somebody named Van Denmark. Both very much not as good as Spencer Brown. So if he doesn't start, the offensive line does take a little bit of a bump down at the beginning of the year.
They have 2 Vans in the backup.
Yeah.
Van Denmark and Van Prangranger.
Basically the Dutch national team.
Hey, the 6.5 I think can go down for sure. That is concerning. The depth is a problem, but I'm expecting them to play a lot of 2 tight ends on the field. So pass pro might be good regardless. The offense in total for me is a 70th percentile. For you, it is a 66th. That means
I don't have Kincaid as a good blocker. I mean, Knox is, but I don't have Kincaid as a terribly good blocker. That said, he's young. He hasn't, he's more of the receiver type tight end. Maybe that improves too. But I mean, having a tight end, even if he's a bad pass blocker, is better than not helping your tackle out.
The highest ADP. 2 funny notes on the wide receiver room before we move off of offense. The highest ADP of any wide receiver on the Bills is 52nd, Curtis Samuel.
I didn't even bring up MVS.
No.
If he's a big part of this offense, is that good? Is that good things?
Yeah.
Yeah, he can be a deep threat, but I don't know if he has it.
Here's another potential. They just need to reset the board badly at Chris. Your third choice for offensive rookie of the year after Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels, Keon Coleman. He is 6-1 right now, which is shorter than Marvin Harrison Jr. 7-1. It's shorter than Bo Nix 18-1. Shorter than Drake May, which is Drake May 35-1. That's like kind of a must bet, right? 35-1 for Drake May.
There's some bad juju coming out of camp where it's
really?
Drake May isn't getting it. I don't. That's just. I heard one little whisper. I haven't dug into that yet. Where it's like
35-1 though. They have That's like they haven't taken a single bet on him for
Coleman's probably a bad bet at
6-1. He's a bad bet at 25-1. What do you think?
Yeah, I'd bet him. Just usage. Like he could get a ton of usage. He's tiny little worthy. Some of these wide receivers that could just get massive usage. It takes a lot of usage.
You saw him do the gauntlet drill, right?
Yeah, it takes a lot of that to get over these wide receivers. Yeah, Drake May might not play this year.
Wow.
Well, what if he just sucks?
We were advocating for that in the last podcast, so I don't know why I'm surprised.
I advocated for 17 games out of him.
All right, 70th percentile offense for me, which is second so far of what we have covered after Philly. 66th percentile offense for you, which, believe it or not, falls behind Houston and behind Philly. So you would 1-for-1 swap everything about the Bills offense for the Houston offense. How about that?
It's a spectrum. It's all about matchups at this point now. Once you
have
your raw number.
I missed one. You would swap Buffalo for Atlanta 1-for-1.
I have Atlanta so high compared to you. I have 67.
All right.
Look at their skill room.
Their skill room's good.
I am gonna just looking at Knox and Kincaid's numbers. I'm making one late change. We will take
3.5.
We will take yes, exactly. We'll take the skill position up to a 3.5. So now I have a 67th percentile team.
Better than Atlanta.
Yeah. This is tied with Atlanta on offense, but obviously better than Atlanta. Yes, this is my 5th best team right now.
Okie doke. Your defensive run stop grade is a what? Daquan Jones is back. Ed Oliver is good. Greg Rousseau can play.
Still a 5.
Depth is 5 for you?
Still a 5 on run stop.
I'm 6.
This is going to be my lowest one. Oliver, it depends how you look at it. There's so many different ways to look at run stops. Some things have Oliver had, run stop win rate was so good, but then you look at his grading and how the defense played around him. It was just fine. Daquan Jones is just a stud at everything. He might be the best player on the damn team. That's not named Josh Allen. Matt Milano is very good. He's healthy. It should improve. He's a great box linebacker. Benford and Douglas are good in run support. Taron Johnson, when he's like nickel slot third corner, but when he plays up in the box, he does this like pseudo safety role. So you're getting help from the secondary too. It's good, not great.
Okay. Speaking of good, not great, pass rush. Where you at?
I lost my thing. Did I say 5? Am I looking at the right line?
You said 5 for run stop.
Okay. I'm at a 6 for pass rush.
6. Okay. What's here's the problem with pass rush grading it. What are you getting out of your number 2 cap hit on this roster in Von Miller?
Yeah, that's the thing.
Anything?
I like 0. He's a 0.
You're getting nothing?
He's rotational. Like I'm not moving this grade based on what he's giving me. Like he's depth at this point. I don't think he was even healthy. There was rumors that he just really wanted to play in London, so that he made him put him on the roster for that he wasn't even good to go. Rousseau, Daquan Jones, Ed Oliver, AJ Epinesa. Here's my notes. No massive standouts in the grand scheme. And maybe because Rousseau hasn't got his flowers, and he should, but this is very solid front for pass rush. This is above average.
Well, for interior pressure, sure. Yeah, interior pressure.
If you put Rousseau as a whole front, if you talk about this group, and then you throw in some of the help you're going to get from the second and third levels, it's above average. You just don't have like the big name that's getting people excited for this, I guess. Like Rousseau and AJ Epinesa aren't getting people excited, but
Epinesa's pretty good. I don't know.
That's what I'm saying, but nobody's putting him in those, because they probably shouldn't be in that stratosphere of like all these other good defenses have a Watt, they have a Daniil Hunter, like these big names. Just kind of a really solid group is what I have.
Okay. I'm only at 5 for these guys, but mostly because I'm not sure how they're generating much edge pressure, honestly. I just didn't know what the fuck to do with Von Miller. I can't believe he's
Von Miller. I have him like, if some of these other guys move ahead of him and they're using like Dwayne Smoot and Casey Toohill more than him.
You got an opinion on where else they could utilize that cap space to do a better job of championship equity?
Anywhere, yeah. The Von Miller contract is bad.
I'm trying to think of what they could have done with it. They never were going to have a chance at Tyreek Hill, right? They weren't going to have a chance at.
They should be in the Ayuk and Higgins lotteries right now.
Well, yeah.
So that takes trading assets though.
That's assets too, though. Yeah.
Yeah. Von Miller might as well just like not be on this team. He's rotational depth.
Okay. Coverage grade for you is what?
Coverage grade is a 7.5.
Dude, that's a high number. I'm at 6.5 here. Okay, talk me through this.
You don't like this defense, huh?
Well, I have them at 58th percentile. They're better than average, but I'm not really ready to go to war with them.
Incredibly strong top 3. Not the strongest top 3 we've talked about this. It's not.
Benford, Douglas, and Johnson.
Benford, Douglas, Johnson are all well above average. Question mark safeties that might not matter. You have good enough pressure unit. Milano's a good coverage linebacker. Bernard is, and then the safeties is like maybe a rookie starting. That's what could bring this down. Mike Edwards is actually good in run stop too. If he ends up playing, he's an asset for. I mean, he's a good tackler.
They should go get. Jackson.
Anyone?
Yeah.
Yeah. What, Kareem Jackson?
No.
He's on the team.
Kareem Jackson is on the team. Yeah.
He's not suspended as of right now. But so it's going to be like Rapp starting on one side, and then it's a mess because Edwards pulled his hammy now, but I mean, it's July. It could probably be fine by the season if they want to play him a bunch. So that's why they signed Kareem Jackson, I believe. But then your next one is like
Justin Simmons was who I was thinking of.
You have DeMar Hamlin. DeMar Hamlin's like next up. So if it gets hairy, it's like Kareem Jackson or DeMar Hamlin at this point. So safety play leaves a little desire, but when you have 3 very, very good cornerbacks, it's enough for me.
Yeah, I want a lot of teams to sign Justin Simmons for some reason. I don't know why he's out there, but he would definitely be a help my coverage grade because I would have less questions about who Cole Bishop is and why is he starting. I don't know how to rate that guy. It's your free safety. That's gonna be tough. I'm at 6.5 specifically because of that. Also, I
didn't
also
mention it in pass rush.
Good.
I didn't mention this in pass rush, but Taron Johnson gets used a little as like a blitzing safety, blitzing
guy.
corner.
Yeah, he's got some skills.
He's actually worked out well when they use him. Everyone else in the secondary is pretty sparing.
Yeah, I also Rasul Douglas kind of fits a mold for me where he was amazing last year to the point where it's unsustainable. Considering we know we have a good signal on who Rasul Douglas is, and that happens with cornerbacks sometimes, right?
He was like a top 15 cornerback.
Yeah, like that happens with quarterbacks sometimes that they just have 1 year where they're like, "Whoa, this guy's God," and then
sometimes I think it's and we talked about this with the Jets too, and how they're able to use Gardner, who is probably the best. Sauce Gardner is probably the best corner in the league, but having DJ Reed be that good helps make him even better because they were able to just use him in different ways and let him trail the top wide receiver. Sometimes I wonder about that. And Rasul Douglas being one of those where it's not like he came in for a small amount of time and really flashed. He played 1,000 snaps.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a big part of the season. He was very good. And I wonder if it is just playing with two other good corners. And I know that, Milano was missing for a good chunk of the season, but we saw decent play from, the rest of this defense down the stretch.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I'm not penciling. If you go look at the cornerback rankings for PFF, Rasul Douglas was the 11th highest rated corner out of 127 last year that qualified. That's like
outlier year though, career wise.
Yeah. I don't think he's going to be a top 10 corner in the league again. Like 2025. Yeah, sure.
Okay. I'm gonna guess your special teams. By the way, yeah, we're not that far off on defense. By the way, in totality, you're 62nd percentile, and I'm 58th. So we're not on islands there.
All right, you guess the special teams number.
5.
4.5.
4.5. Okay, interesting.
Bass is long, but inconsistent. Sam Martin's a good vet on the wrong side of his peak. It might be this Daquan Hardy 6th-round rookie corner that returned some punts, but Khalil Shakir is in the mix for that as well. It's good, not great.
Okay. Intangibles.
Intangibles is 6.
Ooh.
I know. I knew you. We were gonna just dog on McDermott the whole time, and then I was gonna come in with that.
There's a trend emerging, by the way, for my ratings. I hate all the coaches and I love all the skill groups. I'm gonna have a right shifted distribution for my skill groups and a left shifted for my coaches.
Yeah.
And I'm finding reasons to downgrade all these guys to less the better. Worse than
Patrick,
I'm at 4.
Bass, going back to special teams, Bass had a weird year. Like he would drill long ones, but then everything else was just like a mixed bag of inconsistency. Yeah. I have to respect what this coaching staff in totality has done with Josh Allen as a group over the past few years. I have to respect a team in totality that's won this division a couple times. That's gone and won like 4 or 5 playoff games over the last few years. I have to give them that respect. But I think a 6 is kind of low. If you were talking about a team that's been to the playoffs and had this level of success, taken a raw quarterback and gotten into where, done what they've done with this defense after those injuries last year, I think it probably deserves a 7, but it's McDermott, so it's down to a 6.
I forgot Bass missed the 44-yarder that would have tied that game against the Chiefs, but you were losing that game even if he makes that kick.
Yeah.
So minute 47 left, and you're giving Mahomes the ball.
What are you at, like a 3.5, 4?
4.
Okay.
For coaching, 4.
Yeah.
Or intangibles, 4. The only thing that saved this from being a 3, the only thing that saved this from being a 3 is now twice McDermott has had a team on the ropes and he's kept them together and kind of pointed the team in the right direction down the stretch. and gotten them to kind of put together a winning stretch of football to get them into the mix for playoffs. But a lot of his high leverage decision making has just been not good enough, and it's holding them back.
So they did. Correct me if I'm wrong here, but they elevated. God, who is the? Maybe you need to vamp while I do this.
Sure. Well, I can tell you now that we got it. You are at
Bobby Babbage. All right. Linebackers coach. They actually promoted this linebackers coach. They're hoping to take. I got to find the article. I wish I'd bookmarked that. Hoping to take a little more of the defensive stuff off McDermott's plate because I think they realize like he needs to spend more time being the head coach. So it's someone he likes.
He's not good at that though. He's good at the other stuff.
No, but that's part of the grand mystery is he bad at that because he's basically just doing a full-time DC job and trying to. Sometimes guys try to do two jobs and they suck at both. And I still think he did a admirable job of this defense. So read in at least one place that they're trying to take a little more of the defense stuff off his plate because his defense is installed. Like it should be able to. Somebody can maintain this.
Yeah.
So hopefully we get a better McDermott. I'm not holding my breath.
Okay, we agree.
I'm not saying I want him to get his hands into the offense like we saw Zimmer doing years ago that made things worse. I want him to be concentrating on game management, game management. Honestly, being where the buck stops.
Yeah. Okay, so funny enough, with disagreements on skill, on offensive line,
we always do this. We're within like 1%.
We not even 1%. We're identical, 65th percentile teams to the 1,000th, 653, which to me equates to a +5. Is that right for you, or are you 4.5? I gotta
expand my window. 5.
Okay, so. Not many teams we've talked about to this point that they would be dogs 2 on a neutral. And based on our numbers, until we actually go through the process of simming the season and looking, kind of incorporating the schedule and opponents and all that, the rightfully the best team on paper in the AFC East.
Yeah, I have, 64th percentile team for the Jets. And this is a 65th. So was I 63, 64, 65 for the last 3 teams?
Yes.
I told you I had them so close for different reasons.
Yeah. I was 59, 61, 65. So I have a little more separation. But for me, the schedule is a neutralizing factor where it pushes the Dolphins down and it brings the Jets and the Bills together. Let's look at the schedule. It's a monster. This is a first place schedule.
Yeah, very much.
This is a first place schedule. For being one of the best teams in the NFL, it is rare that there is orange indicating look ahead line dog this often. The Bills are going to be a top 5 power rated team when we're all done with this. They will be. Spoiler alert. Dogs at Miami week 2, dogs at Buffalo week 4, dogs at Houston week 5, dogs at Jets week 6, dogs
Baltimore.
at
You meant Baltimore in week.
What did I say?
You said Buffalo, which is
sorry. Dogs at Baltimore week 4, dogs at Houston week 5, dogs at Jets week 6. If you'll notice, I listed off 3 straight consecutive weeks, which means road, Baltimore, Houston, Jets. Holy fucking yuck. That sucks. And then dogs versus KC on the week 11 look ahead. Out of your bye, dogs versus San Francisco week 13. With extra rest, you're still dogs in San Fran. Dogs week 15 at Detroit. And then this isn't even the close, listing the close calls where you're small favorites at the Rams, at the Colts, at the Seahawks. Small favorites of the Seahawks. Okay. But yeah, this is a really, 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 really difficult schedule but a lot of games I'm very excited to watch. Do you generally agree that they got a little bit of a tough pull here?
Not great, and that it's you see this every year where a team has like back road, and a lot of times it's like, well, at least the third one's Carolina. At least the third one's this is last year's MVP, last year's offensive rookie of the year, and a 4-time MVP with a monster defense 3 weeks in a row in Baltimore, Houston, and the Jets. Road. I'm not sure I've ever seen like who's the worst team of those three? Houston by our ratings.
No, I think we have Houston over the Jets. I have Houston over the Jets.
Yep, I do as well. So I have the Jets as the 10th rated team.
The Jets are the worst team, probably.
Yeah, I have
actually,
the Jets 10th. Good. Houston is the 8th, and Baltimore I haven't got to, but they're obviously up there, guys. So you're playing 3 top 10 teams in a row on the road. That's nuts. Like those three game stretches, it feels like there's always one breath of air there. That's fucking
honestly
terrible.
You can go back to week 2 and you got to go play in the heat, right? Oh, that's at night. Never mind.
So we brought that up, and I think Vodzilla pointed that out. We brought that up in the Miami pod as well. Like the Miami Heat thing doesn't happen at the beginning of the season because one of those games they host is at night. So they did luck out a little there, as he pointed out as well. Same thing with the Jacksonville game. You don't have to go to Jacksonville, at least. You don't have to travel for Arizona. So 2 of the 3 first games are at home. If you can go 3-0, then you can brace the door, hide the women and children, and try to make it through that 3-game stretch at 1-2. And if you come out of that Jets game and you're 4-2, I think you win the division.
Oh, no question. No question.
But I mean, if something goes wrong in Miami, and there's a lot of situations where, man, are we 2-4? This isn't good. I feel bad for Tennessee because, boy, that's a take out your first.
That's week 7, yeah. Week 7 is
take it out on the Titans.
Yeah, you got a nice get right spot there. Although you got short rest. You're playing Monday Night Football into Sunday, and it's early. You're going Monday night into Sunday early. At least you're home.
It's the worst schedule out of the. Obviously, Miami has the weird ending. But
we didn't even really talk about KC, San Fran, Rams, Detroit.
I hadn't even gotten to the second part.
That is a fucking gauntlet.
In totality, this is the worst schedule of the division ones. So yeah, you should get right. You should beat Seattle on the road. Hopefully, in Miami at home, it's a nice. Because Miami coming off, you have a little no rest, just travel advantage. Indy might not be an easy game as well, as you've gotten 8-9 weeks for Anthony Richardson to get his shit figured out over there. That schedule sucks.
Yikes, man.
Got a sandwich spot for the bye. They might lose to the bye. Yeah, Kansas City and San Francisco, at least they're at home. Both sides of the bye.
Yeah, that's true.
Many? So let's go with the 3-week stretches, the 2 3-week stretches where away, Baltimore, Houston Jets, and Kansas City by San Francisco, both games at home. How many of those 5 games do you have to win to still win this division? Knowing that only one of those games is a divisional game. 2.
Gotta be 2. But you got to win the Jets game, and then you got to win one other one.
Yeah, 2 or 3. Less than that, and things get pretty dicey because
is there a style of team? Is there a style of team or a good offense, bad defense, good pass rush, bad secondary?
I think
good skill group, bad
wasted on you
offensive line. What's the rubric of a team that you are excited to match up with? That's good.
I like the matchup versus the Jets, even though I said it's like my best defense. Like, oh no, Sauce Gardner shut down Khalil Shakir. What the fuck are we going to do?
That's a great point, actually.
And if these tackles are playing well, They can handle that pass rush. And Josh Allen's a nightmare to scheme a front seven against. Like,
he traditionally struggles against the Jets for whatever reason.
He does, but I like currently rostered. I don't hate that matchup.
Okay. How about Houston? You going score for score with Houston? You're definitely putting it on that defense. But is their offense hurting you? Probably, right? DJ Stroud's picking you apart. You're not getting to him.
I don't know. Like I said, you don't have a Sauce Gardner, but you have such a good 1-2-3. They have so many good receivers. I think you can slow it down a little. I'd try to run if I'm Houston. And I
can tell you, man. Baltimore. We haven't gotten to them. Spoiler alert, I think they're wildly overrated by market. Like, that game feels more like a pick on week 4, if we're being honest.
It's still a road game.
Still a road game. Primetime game. But Buffalo and McDermott have always had the answers for Lamar.
That's fair.
And honestly, like, the weapons for Baltimore aren't necessarily good enough that scares you if you're the Buffalo defense.
Yeah, it's John Simpson revenge game, and then the Stephon Diggs revenge game, and then I'm sure so many Jets Bills have swapped around.
Oh, that's crazy. Good point. Okay. All right. Well,
currently priced. How do you feel about the Bills because of the schedule? And we keep doing this. We say, like, hey, schedule isn't everything. You never know what happens. Like, you could get to the Kansas City game and Mahomes is sitting out a couple weeks for a high ankle, and suddenly this isn't so daunting.
Sure. I think I don't think the market is too high on these guys right now. Josh Allen is second choice for MVP. That feels reasonable.
That's where I landed. I said fair pricing.
Yeah, there's slight favorites in division, even though they're the best team. They have the hardest schedule. That's fair. I think because that gauntlet starts week 4, where I do like them over Baltimore, I'm not inclined to put a fade alert on these guys.
I kind of want to dig into savings and see a whale sport trade tracker, Keon Coleman rookie of the year. No, like, whatever price that would. That truly is the price. Like, that needs to be a two-way market, apparently.
Yeah. I think they're 3. I think they start 3-1. I think Houston could be trouble, but I think they could get the Jets. Tennessee, Seattle looks good. You could be 6-2. The KC San Francisco stretch wins against those two teams at home, flips they're all of a sudden they're Super Bowl favorites, right? Losses to those two teams at home and they're afterthoughts. Right?
Yeah, suddenly your wild card team.
Splitting and nothing happens. I guess it depends who you split with, but you know.
Those games surrounding the bye could flip you from, division winner to wild card or
yep.
not only wild card, but like 6 seed or vice versa.
Yeah. And honestly, I think with how the Jets schedule is easier, and if you split with the Jets, which is a good fair guess, then, a couple of losses, week 11, week 13, one of Detroit, LA. Yeah, I think you're talking wild card. I think you're probably coming in as the 5th seed. And I think you're probably beating the 4th seed in the playoffs, which might be Houston.
I got to pull that up again. Was that KC game primetime?
Yeah. Oh, no, it's 4 p.m.
Yeah, I was going to say, why?
Probably because CBS put a giant cock block on that.
Yeah, I feel like there's probably...
That was the first one that they said, no, we want to make sure we need that to be our Tony Romo game. Are you kidding?
Any other 4 o'clock game that day isn't getting watched, apparently. They might as well put some
there might not be any other 4 o'clock games.
Yeah, they should just have the one. They should make, we complain about that when there's not that many 4 o'clock games.
This has happened a couple years in a row, by the way. Where it hasn't been prime time.
Well, every once in a while, they should, when there's like 6 teams on bye, they should just do one 4 o'clock game. Like make it a standalone. Hell with it. If you're gonna have
interestingly enough, they have
one. They
have 4 4 o'clock games that week. Falcons at Broncos. Seahawks at Niners, snooze fest, and then Bengals at Chargers. So you're going to have 4 elite quarterbacks in action at the same time window.
I don't think Geno's elite, but there's Raiders Broncos. There's never been a Raiders Broncos game that wasn't like the third best game at 4 p.m. Like that feels like it happens 8 times a year somehow. Like it's always like it's commercials. Let's see what's happened in the other game.
I don't disagree. So I think ultimately what I come down on is that the current price is fair and the schedule is enough up and down that like it's probably more about trying to capture the highs and lows of market rating. Yeah. And honestly, like if I'm not part of a big splash successful season, a Josh Allen MVP season, a Bills 1 seed season, in terms of futures,
such is life. Yeah,
such is life. It's not, the price isn't good enough, and honestly, I'm not dying to get behind them in playoff matchups, if we're being honest, because I have questions about some of the aspects of the defense, certainly the skill position group, and going score for score, high leverage stuff with McDermott. Like, there's enough things to doubt about how it goes in the playoffs that I'm okay missing out on a 686 price in the AFC. I'm okay missing out on a what's their Super Bowl price? 1254. That's actually kind of big.
We'll have to make some evaluations after that first tough stretch. After Game 6, we'll have to see where we're at.
That's kind of interesting because, like, it's interesting looking at AFC and Super Bowl markets because they're almost always just like double. But there's clearly some teams where, like, if this team makes the Super Bowl, they're going to be favored. It doesn't matter who's coming out of the other side.
If they went that far, especially from the AFC, because if it's not like they went that far because they just had an easy path.
Yeah.
So many fucking things would have to happen for anybody in the AFC to have an easy path where it's like this team's not that good. It's like this team is redlining if they're in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Or they're the Chiefs. Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah. And I think I would say the opposite of every good team that's not the Niners in the NFC, right? Like, you want to talk about a donkey bet, betting an NFC team to win the Super Bowl, like the Lions or the Packers, or the Cowboys, or even the Eagles. Like, if it's priced as double the equity or half the equity, all of those teams are going to be dogs in the Super Bowl. Almost certainly, right?
So something weird would have to happen.
Something weird would have to happen.
Quarterback gets hurt late in the AFC Championship game.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm just saying, like, if you're betting upside in the NFC, I'm much more inclined to take NFC price. If you're betting upside in the AFC, I'm much more inclined to take Super Bowl price. Does that make sense?
Bills backup quarterback without looking.
It's secured. No. Matt Barkley.
Not anymore.
No.
Mitchell
no
Trubisky.
Idea. Mitch Trubisky.
I think he
was he the backup last year?
Yeah, I think he was there last year.
He was last up. Did he take any snaps last year? We thought maybe he was going to, because Josh Allen have a shoulder injury at some point.
So Mitch Trubisky took 202 snaps last year.
For who?
I'm sure there were some cleanup games.
Mitch Trubisky took 200.
Now we're looking into this. Mitch Trubisky game logs. Mitch Trubisky. This is not something I thought I'd be doing at this time of the night.
He was on a different team. He was a Steeler.
Oh, he was a Steeler. Okay,
he was a Steeler.
That makes a lot more sense.
Kyle Allen was the.
Because I'm like, it was cleanup. It was cleanup duty. I'm like, 202 snaps is a lot.
That's a lot. Duty. Yeah. Kyle Allen was the backup.
There
we go. He did not have that many snaps. Turns out.
For some reason, it's always a Bears backup that's in Pittsburgh. Fuck, he might be the starter. I'm excited to get to the Pittsburgh pod because it's kind of a fun mess.
Shit is.
I think that's it for us. Okay. Unless you had anything else, I appreciate you guys. Hit the thumbs up. And we'll be back next week. And if you're out in Bet Bash, shoot us a message.
Oh yeah,
we'll drink some beers.
We're doing our normal pods next week. We will be doing the NFC North. Very excited, and then we're going to do a special live pod at Best Bet Bash on Thursday at 11 o'clock. 11 o'clock.
Yeah, but it's like
PM Pacific time? AM.
I think
11 a.m. Pacific time.
11 a.m. West Coast time.
I'm assuming we're going to simulcast that. If not, we'll release it in podcast form at least.
As long as their internet's fine, we'll simulcast. If not, obviously I'll record it and we'll upload it right away. It'll be uploaded as a podcast immediately because I'll just want to do that and get it over with so I can get back to Vegasing. But yeah, if you're out there, hit us up. Again, appreciate you guys.
Later on in the pod on Monday and Wednesday. So that
Bears, Vikings, and then Lions, Packers.
Yes.